You see, he tells the story about this person, this master, this host that throws this banquet. And he's invited people in the beginning. And you get the sense, and the commentators say this too, that they've already said yes. So it's people that, the right people. He's invited them, hey, I'm hosting this banquet. I want you to be there. And they're like, sure, sure. And then the banquet gets there and they don't show up and they give the lamest excuses. One of them's like, I bought a field and I need to go look at it. Another one's like, I bought some animals. I got to go check on them. The last one's not so lame. The last one's like, I just got married and we're doing other things. It's in the Bible. You should read it. Anyway, and that was a little less lame. But these people are like, sorry, we got better things to do. So the master's like, hey, listen, servant, go out to the street and grab everybody. Grab the lame, grab the cripple, grab any person, grab the wrong people and fill my table. So the servant does that. And he goes to the master, he goes, Master, there's still more seats at the table. He goes, go even further. Go to the country. Go to the edges. Get anybody and everybody and bring them to my table. The servant does that. There's still space at the table. And the master, when the servant comes back this time, the master says, hey, listen, you know those people I originally invited that were too busy? They're not invited to my table. Even though there's space, they will not taste the goodness of my banquet. Whew. That's challenging. Jesus is talking to people like you and I. And what he's saying to us today is, hey, his last piece of advice, don't miss my invitation for your life. Don't get too busy to do the things I actually have asked you to do. Don't be so insecure that you're like sitting around waiting to be invited to something and you're just hurt because no one's including you. Go out to the streets and grab whoever you can. Don't fall into the trap of the enemy around isolation and loneliness. You've already been invited. You've said yes to Jesus. Now invite everyone else around you to feast with you on who Jesus is. Guys, I feel this real personally because right now I have some neighbors that I love, and we've known each other. I've lived in my house for 6 years now, and I've known one couple the whole time we've lived there and another couple in the last year, but we really know them, and they're pretty open with how much they don't like what I do. Like, they're very uncomfortable. Like, they don't like it at all. But they're nice, but they're awkward. And everything in me wants to drive my car into my garage and push my garage button down and go in my house and feel okay about who I am and ignore the fact that I know they not only don't believe what I believe, but they don't like what I do or believe. And every time Jesus is like, is that what I would do? No. So instead, and my kids are the worst. They're like, Mom, the neighbors are out. We should go play. I'm like, no, okay, And every time I'm like, okay, invite them for another cocktail, invite them to another Christmas party, invite them to barbecue with you, go into the front yard and just say hi, even when they twitch a little, when you say, yeah, I was at church, and they're like, nah, True story. I'm challenged in this in my own life is what I'm telling you. I'm not standing up here today as like a professional at this. I do think Kyle and I have been challenged to be generous with our lives, and we're trying to do that. But even as I wrote this sermon this week, I felt both excited about the invitation of the Lord and scared at the same time. And it's okay if you sit here today and you feel that way. It's uncomfortable. It is easier to have your table for your best friends and your family that knows you and the people that bring you the most life. And Jesus by no means is saying never hang out with those people, right? But he is saying, hey, would you have eyes for others? And here's the thing. If you've never thought this way, if you've never thought like, how do I use my table for the mission of God? Because that's basically what we're talking about. Just start today. Who could I invite? Is there a family that I know is far from Jesus that I can then invite? Sometimes I have buffer families. I'm like, hey, best friends, come over and I'm gonna invite this other family over and you're gonna help me, right? Like, you can cheat. I love cheating. spiritually cheating, not literally cheating. No, there's ways to do this and be creative. And so I just want to take this last little minute to give you a really, really practical step that I thought about this week. Because there's many of you, you're like, I've never used my table. Some of you sit here with social anxiety and you're like, Anabeth, to open my home is like, I don't even know how to do that because I'm legitimately I'm scared around social moments. There's lots of reasons, right? There's old rejection. There's personality types. There's lots of reasons. But let me give you one really, really clear next step for yourself. You see, we have this thing in our church that we host here called Alpha. And Alpha is for people that are thinking about life with Jesus. And they're just kind of curious. But guys, it's 8 weeks, and every week we meet, we start with a meal because we think there's power in eating together. And so this is a good spot for you to start. You could cheat off of our church, meaning you could show up and say, I'm willing to host at Alpha and see how this goes. Because guys, what happens is you have a meal, then a video is played. They do all the work theologically for you. Can I just say this to us today? You don't have to have a theological degree to talk about Jesus. The most powerful thing you host inside of you that has to do with Jesus is your own story and how he's made himself real to you. You don't have to have the Bible memorized to talk about Jesus. All you have to do is say, this is what I was before Jesus, this is what he did to reveal himself to me, and this is who I am now because of Jesus. That's it. Guys, all you have to do is to show up to Alpha, let the video do the theological work, and then be willing to sit at a table with people that may say awkward things like, I'm not sure I believe that. And then you just go, why is that? And every time they end up saying, well, I had this bad thing happen in my life. I don't understand why God would let that happen. Or I was raised this way, and why is this more real than this? And you go, it's really funny. All I know is, and boom, you just start telling them your story. And so I want to invite you, if you're like, I'm one of those people that doesn't know how to open my home and put people around my table because it's scary, then come and join us at our table in Alpha. And then if you're like, I've done that, that's fun, then do the next step. Invite one of your coworkers, invite one of your friends, invite one of your family members that doesn't know Jesus to Alpha, sit in Alpha with them. Guys, it's really fun to host Alpha, but it is a blast to walk someone through it. Just side by side with them. And then at the end, they're like, this Jesus guy's real. And you're like, he's real. He's changed everything about my life. So today, if you're like,